आपने एक ऐसी स्कीम को दे दिया है जो इस देश के नवयुवकों को मार डालेगा।
नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने ये अग्निपथ योजना जो लाई है, ये निश्चित तौर पे देश के प्राइवेट कंपनियों को फायदा पहुंचाने के लिए योजना लाई गई है।
आप ऐसा कैसे कह सकते हो कि आप 17 साल में ट्रेनिंग के लिए जाइए और 21 साल में रिटायर होके आ जाइए?
क्या उनके लिए मनरेगा के लिए मनरेगा जैसा रोजगार है क्या? या तो आरएसएस का कोई इसमें हिडन एजेंडा है?
A barrage of confusion, misinformation, and outright lies have been unleashed about the Agnipath scheme. Youth are being deliberately misled, fear-mongered, and instigated to hit the streets by vested interests. Their insecurities are being preyed upon by political parties to further their own political interests, but the Agnipath scheme is far from what the naysayers claim it to be. The scheme provides an opportunity for the country's youth to serve the nation as Agniveers for a period of 4 years. However, the larger objective of the scheme is to create a large pool of skilled youth who can contribute to India's overall defense preparedness as well as contribute to the country's growth with their skills and experience. Here are some unfounded and baseless myths being peddled by the opposition and a section of the media. Myth 1. The most common myth peddled by the opposition is about the insecure future of the Agniveers. But here are some facts. After 4 years, up to 25% of Agniveers in a batch stand a chance to be inducted as permanent cadres in the armed forces. All Agniveers will also be given a financial package of 11.71 lakhs at the end of 4 years, which will be exempted from income tax. Those wishing to turn entrepreneurs are eligible to avail a loan and will be given priority. Those wishing to study further will be provided with a certificate declaring that they have passed the Class 12 exam and can also take part in a bridging course for further studies. Agniveers will also be given priority in the recruitment of paramilitary forces like CAPF, CISF, and state police forces. States like Assam, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, etc. have also declared that Agniveers will be given preference in police recruitment and other government jobs. The finance minister has also asked banks to moot ways to support Agniveers. So in essence, if a youth enrolls today as an Agniveer, his or her bright future is guaranteed after 4 years. Myth 2. Another myth that is being peddled is that this system of inducting youngsters will hamper the effectiveness of our armed forces. The Indian Armed Forces have assured that with the infusion of technology and revamping of the training programs, the personnel inducted under the scheme would have the same skill sets which are required to meet the operational challenges. It is also worth mentioning that such short-term military engagement for the youth exists in many countries like Israel, France, Russia, China, Germany, USA, and UK, which have attained high levels of development thanks to a skilled and patriotic population. Hence, the Agnipath scheme is not an untested experiment on our armed forces. In contrast, India is taking the best practices from countries across the world and a tried and tested human resource management system, keeping in tune with the dynamics of changing times. Myth 3. Many have also asked why the Agnipath scheme is inducting youth in the rank of soldiers and not as officers. For their kind attention, there is an entry scheme already in existence called Short Service Commission in the Tri-Services, through which officers are recruited for a 10-year period. Myth 4. One of the most ridiculous myths that is being peddled is that Agniveers will become a national security threat as they may be recruited by terrorist organizations. This is not just an insult to the youth, but also demeans the ethos and values of the Indian Armed Forces. Even today, thousands retire from armed forces, but there have not been any instances of them joining anti-national forces. Myth 5. Another myth that is doing the rounds is that the Modi government has formulated the scheme without consulting with the armed forces. The fact of the matter is that extensive consultations were held with the serving armed forces officers over the last 2 years. The scheme has been formulated by the Department of Military Affairs, which comprises of military officers and not civil servants. In fact, it has been a long-standing demand of the armed forces to pave way for a young, agile, and tech-savvy military. By peddling misinformation against the scheme, the opposition is not just politicizing the armed forces, but also doing a grave injustice to the nation and its military ethos.